She's a lovely young lady. She wishes for children. She'll make a perfectly agreeable wife.
What he means to say is that he's already dismissed every other young lady in town.
As you probably guessed from the title, she lied about everything and he still loves her. Bridgerton Season 4 is gearing up for some seriously dramatic moments. That's because one of the season's biggest turning points will center on Benedict and Sophie's most heated argument, the one that pushes Sophie to leave her job in the Bridgerton household and for a short time ends with her in jail. Their fight isn't just about hurt feelings, it's directly tied to the massive gap between their places in society. If all of this sounds a little confusing right now, just stick with me until the end, and it'll all make sense. So, let's dive into everything we know about Season 4 and why this love story might be one of the show's most emotional yet. First, you have to understand Sophie's background. In Julia Quinn's An Offer from a Gentleman, Sophie is the illegitimate daughter of the Earl of Penwood. Because of that, she never had the same privileges as his legitimate children. After his death, her stepmother, Lady Araminta Gunn, is required to let Sophie stay in the family home if she wants to keep receiving a larger yearly income. But instead of treating her kindly, Araminta turns Sophie into an unpaid servant. Sophie's tragic upbringing is actually one of the only windows Bridgerton gives us into what life was like for lower-class women in that era. Her years as a servant, both in her own home and later elsewhere, shape her into a practical, thrifty woman with a strong moral compass, the very qualities that make Benedict fall for her. And here's the thing, Sophie and Benedict's romance simply wouldn't work the same way if she hadn't been forced into service. Their different social standings set the stage for one of the most important moments in their relationship, Benedict's proposal, which Sophie refuses. It's heartbreaking, but it's also what pushes Benedict to realize that keeping a secure position in the Ton means nothing if it costs him Sophie. Without her belonging to a completely different class, his happily ever after would have played out in a completely different way. Of course, Benedict's journey in Season 4 isn't just about love, it's also about rediscovering a piece of himself that fans saw way back in Season 2, his passion for painting. Back then, Benedict's art school storyline seemed like it was building towards something big, but in Season 3, that whole plot thread vanished after he quit the academy. So, it makes perfect sense for Season 4 to bring it back. In An Offer from a Gentleman, Sophie is one of the few people who really sees Benedict's talent. She believes in him, and that faith pushes him to become better. In the books, Benedict doesn't find his artistic voice in a classroom, he finds it in the countryside, painting far away from the politics and expectations of London society. Eventually, he becomes such an accomplished painter that his work hangs in the National Gallery. If the show follows that arc, Season 4 could finally give us the completion of the art storyline Season 2 started, while also showing how Sophie inspires Benedict's creativity. It's not just a side plot, it's a way of proving that love can change not only your life, but your very sense of who you are. But that love story has some serious obstacles, and the biggest one comes in the form of a painful, class-fueled misunderstanding. In An Offer from a Gentleman, Benedict struggles to see a way for them to be together without destroying his own standing in society. Because marrying a servant would make him a pariah, he asks Sophie to become his mistress instead. To him, it's a way to keep her in his life, but to Sophie, it's a betrayal of everything she stands for. Sophie knows exactly what it's like to grow up illegitimate and trapped in a social position that limits your freedom. Even though she loves Benedict deeply, she refuses to doom any future children to the same life she endured. That refusal creates their biggest rift, a heartbreaking separation that defines Sophie's integrity while also setting off one of the most action-packed chains of events in the entire Bridgerton series. And that's where we get to one of the moments fans are most excited to see on screen, the prison storming. When Araminta spots Sophie in London, she sets out to ruin her once and for all. Her plan? Have Sophie transported to Australia to live out her days in a penal colony. It's extreme, but then again, Araminta's cruelty knows no bounds. That leads to an unforgettable climax where Violet and Benedict storm the prison to rescue her. This jail scene is a turning point for so many reasons. It's where we see Violet at her most cunning, threatening Araminta and exposing how she embezzled Sophie's dowry. It's also where Benedict makes a passionate declaration of love, and where both Sophie and her stepsister Posey stand up to Araminta once and for all. Honestly, if Season 4 skipped this scene, it would strip Benedict and Sophie's story of one of its most powerful and satisfying moments. And speaking of Araminta, Netflix has already confirmed the casting for her and Sophie's stepfamily. Katie Lung will play Lady Araminta Gunn. Michelle Mao will take on the role of Rosamund Lee, Sophie's elder stepsister, and Isabel Wei will play Posey Lee, the younger stepsister. Susan Brown has joined the cast as Mrs. Crabtree, caretaker of My Cottage, with her husband Mr. Crabtree still to be cast. The character of Philip Cavender, a man who once tried to assault Sophie while she was working in his parents' home, will also appear. In An Offer from a Gentleman, Rosamund and Posey are products of their mother's influence, but it's Araminta who stands out as the real villain. From the start, she resents Sophie simply for existing. After Sophie's father dies, she doesn't just mistreat her, she enslaves her. And even though much of this cruelty happens before the events of the main story, Araminta remains a danger because when Sophie becomes a lady's maid at Violet Bridgerton's house, Araminta is living right next door. The tension is immediate. If Araminta discovers her, Sophie could lose everything. Of course, in the book, Araminta does find her, and it's pure chaos from that moment on. She's furious over Sophie's disobedience at the masquerade ball and livid that Sophie managed to escape her control. Her revenge plan is personal, vindictive, and completely without mercy. This is exactly why Season 4 has the potential to deliver a stronger villain story than Season 3. Last season tried to frame Cressida Cowper as the main antagonist, but it didn't fully commit. We saw her blackmail Penelope and claim to be Lady Whistledown, but we also learned about her awful home life and emotionally abusive parents. By the end, she was sent to live with her aunt, and while her actions were manipulative, she never felt like a truly irredeemable villain. Araminta, on the other hand, doesn't need a redemption arc. Her actions, enslaving her stepdaughter, stealing her dowry, trying to have her shipped off to a penal colony, are indefensible. There's nothing in her history that excuses her behavior. And because she's a new character for the show, the writers don't have to worry about conflicting audience loyalties the way they might have with Cressida. They can lean into making her a full-on antagonist from the start. Katie Lung has already hinted that the series will give Araminta a richer backstory than the book offers, but even if we learn more about her motivations, it won't soften her role as the season's central villain. If anything, fleshing her out could make her even more compelling and more dangerous. So, between Benedict and Sophie's class-defying love story, the return of Benedict's artistic journey, the heart-wrenching separation, the dramatic prison rescue, and the introduction of a truly ruthless villain, Season 4 is shaping up to be one of Bridgerton's most intense and emotional installments yet. And with this bunch of new characters joining the mix, the drama will have even more layers. It's not just about romance this time, it's about power, reputation, integrity, and the courage to fight for the life you want, even when society tells you it's impossible. Benedict and Sophie's story promises passion and heartbreak, but it also promises a resolution that feels earned. And if the show follows through on its most iconic scenes, Season 4 could easily become a fan favorite for years to come. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comment section.